we really try to encourage our investors to diversify within our product. So pick some of the Brazil stuff, pick some of the Europe stuff, pick some of the US based stuff, because we're going to make you a solar cocktail. And we're trying to make sure that it's a great cocktail. And I view the United States stuff as sort of the ice. Not very flavorful, but definitely ballasts the drink and makes sure that you can't have a real cocktail without it.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Richer Geek Podcast. Pleased to have Mike Silvestrini with us today. He's a co-founder and managing partner at Energia, which is a renewable energy retail investment platform. Should be a very interesting conversation. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, Mike. How about yourself?
Good. Not as good as you, where you're at, but I'm trying to stay cool. So we're going to talk about renewable energy and what your company does. First off, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the renewable energy platform.
Sure. So I'm from Connecticut and born and raised, and spent a lot of time traveling in my younger years. And then when I was 27, I started a solar energy company called Green Skies. And it was very early stages of the industry in 2007, 2008 timeframe. And I didn't know much about business. And we basically created Green Skies to be a project developer. So this is the link in the value chain that does most of the work. We used to get the customers, buy the equipment, install the product, go get the financing, build the project, and then usually, as often as we could, own them, maintain them, and collect their revenue on a long-term basis. And through that experience, I was founder and CEO of the business for 9 years. Learned a lot of business and about solar energy as an asset class. And we wound up building somewhere around 400 to 450 solar projects for customers like Walmart and Target and Amazon, some of these great credits. And we were able to parlay those relationships into one of the larger commercial and industrial solar companies in the US. And then in 2017, my partners and we decided it would be a good time for us to sell the company. We exited that business in 2017. And at that point in time, I went from being sort of an executive at a solar development company to becoming an investor and starting to think about, how does money really work? And what are my other asset class options? And going and hiring, sort of financial advisors and registered investment advisors, as many of us do, and handing over, my precious treasure to somebody I had just met, and kind of feeling a little uncomfortable about that, and being an entrepreneur, and being basically an expert in a particular asset class, being solar energy projects. I eventually figured, I better stick with what I'm good at here. And on a personal level, started investing back into solar again. And then Energia came around as a way to share this asset class with more individuals, because I think it's timely that more people start to take a look at solar energy as an alternative to either bonds or real estate or crypto or stocks. And, a lot of people are overweight in various either stocks or alternatives right now, and they're looking for new stuff, new ideas that aren't wild. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there, but I think that solar energy is a very sensible asset class that needs to be part of the story for people's portfolios going forward. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's especially in today's world where you just don't know what's going to happen with different type of asset classes. It's so good and so important to be diversified.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. China sneezes and stock market does something, or something happens, but you always have to have, if one thing goes down, another thing goes up. One thing goes sideways, you have two things that are stabilized. So it's really good.
That's right.
Now, what you have in Energia is a platform for people to invest with you, what type of regulation are you guys under with the SEC? What type of investment are you talking about with?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, we wanted to figure out a way to take solar energy projects and be able to share them with multiple investors, but not only accredited investors, but also non-accredited investors. And we weren't sure how to do that at first, and then stumbled across Regulation D, which is sort of your typical friends and family structure. A lot of real estate is done this way. As long as everybody's accredited, you can aggregate a bunch of folks together and buy stuff and invest together with it. But that was pretty limiting for us because number one, with Regulation D, like I said, everybody has to be accredited. And number two, FINRA and the SEC has some strict guidelines on your ability to market and share that investment opportunity with others. Well, that's not going to help an online platform, get people aware of the asset class. So then we got smart and switched over to this Regulation A archetype, which is really just kind of come of age recently. And this allows us to not only raise up to $75 million per year per investment thesis, and to do that for both accredited and non-accredited investors, but it also allows to market these securities broadly. And it's a relatively long process, somewhere between a full S1 IPO process and a Reg D process. I'd put it sort of about in the middle there, bureaucratically and administratively. And then, we have our typical standard procedures for audited financial statements and standard reporting back to the SEC each year about the performance of each of these funds. And we've stood up 4 of those now, and we're working on a pair of new ones as well. And what we do is we take a broad view of global solar industry, and we try to predict where returns are going to be highest. And that's really been the art form of a solar developer from my past. For the last 15 years, we've been trying to pick the markets, kind of like the way a real estate person does. Where's the next hot bubble? Only instead of just looking at the United States, we look at the whole world. And when we think we've spotted something, we put together an investment thesis around that idea, that product, if you will. And then we take that and go through the SEC process. We get it green lighted by the SEC and then post that onto our website so that we start aggregating capital from investors who are interested in participating. And then Energia, our business, manages the process of finding and identifying, underwriting, buying, and then managing those solar projects that meet that investment thesis. Fairly straightforward.
It is. And so what are they actually buying when they invest?
You're buying part of the issuer entity. There's like we call it a holding company, a holdco. It's a Delaware LLC. And when you come on our line, you click a button, you invest in something, you're buying shares of that LLC. So now you're a pro rata shareholder of a company in Delaware. And that company in Delaware, all it does in this world is buys projects of a particular flavor. And that flavor is what's described in the offering circular. And it's managed by us. The company has no employees. So we like that. You're not paying for corporate operating expenses or management teams. You just own the equity in the projects. And your capital is aggregated with capital from other investors who click that same button and then used to acquire these solar projects. And now, once the portfolio or the holding company owns a project that sometimes we're constructing them, and we're going to get paid the best when we take a little construction risk. We get involved with the project earlier as opposed to just buying an operational asset. And since we're experienced in that, we like buying projects a little bit earlier, building them right out of that portfolio. And then they turn on and the sun starts shining, wax those solar panels, produces electricity. We have already pre-sold that electricity under long-term contract, generally 15 to 20 years. So all the electricity is sold as we generate it. We collect the revenue from that, and then we pay some operating expenses. We pay for ensuring operations and maintenance of the plant, and then whatever's left over gets shipped back up to the holding company, and then 100% of the money in the holding company's bank account at the end of the month gets dispersed pro rata to the shareholders. So it's a really direct ownership of these solar assets. And then if the solar assets exceed the hurdle, which changes based off of the different types of products we offer, and that's all described in the offering circular, then we take a rake. So we get paid to get out there, find great projects, do a great job of managing them, and getting excellent returns to our investors. So that's essentially the product.
And most of the projects, commercial?
Yeah, we tend to find that for really, really big projects, institutional capital is a great fit. Pension funds, Goldman Sachs, they're perfect buyers of ginormous solar projects. But those guys have a harder time making investments into projects that are smaller. And for us, that means sort of $1 million to $5 million per project. That's really the sweet spot for us. And it's a little too small for the Goldman guys to spend their time underwriting that deal. So they're not competing against us. And that gives us an opportunity to get a great return on investment because there's not as much competition here beating down the cost of capital. We also don't mess around with residential projects. It's just, that's not really where our experience is. And it's hard enough to manage, portfolios of $5 million deals. I couldn't imagine managing portfolios of $20,000 deals. That would be a lot more maintenance and administrative processing.
Yeah, let the energy companies and Elon Musk,
right, have at
it, right?
That's right.
Now, you said you also invest in foreign companies. So how does that work? I can't imagine like all the different tax differentials and all the different, or do you commingle the funds, or do you sit there and say, hey, I have a fund that is in Asia that you can invest in, and it does not commingle with something you may have in a different country? Or
that's right. We keep all of the projects of a similar type in a bucket, and then we take those buckets, and that's in our marketplace, so that our customers can pick and choose which types of investment theses they prefer. And the way I look at it is to do this correctly, we really try to encourage our investors to diversify within our product. So pick some of the Brazil stuff, pick some of the Europe stuff, pick some of the US based stuff, because we're going to make you a solar cocktail. And we're trying to make sure that it's a great cocktail. And I view the United States stuff as sort of the ice, not very flavorful, but definitely ballasts the drink and makes sure that you can't have a real cocktail without it. And then we punctuate that with some emerging market projects where we're getting, instead of getting sort of 6% to 8% IRRs, which are contracted investment grade, US dollar denominated projects, very firm stuff. And we like that, but it's not that exciting, and it's hard to retire off 6% to 8%. So we also like to blend in some stuff from, for example, Brazil. And we really picked a winner in Brazil. It has been a phenomenally explosive market. Returns for projects there are in the 16 to 18% return by the time it gets back to our clients. And that includes foreign exchange and the types of risks that we anticipate encountering there. We have a large operation in Brazil. In fact, Energia will be the second or third largest solar company down in Brazil this year. So we're set up to manage those assets pretty well. We have several $100 million worth of investments down there that we manage. And we think it's great. And we think it's a great complement to those US portfolios. We also have an Africa product. I think Africa is an overlooked market. You say the word Africa and most American investors run the other direction, right? Unless they're sort of impact-minded guys. I wouldn't say that we're impact-minded. I'd say that we're opportunistic, and we think there's a lot of great customers in Africa that have been overlooked, and we think customers in Africa need solar more than most other markets because electricity is very undependable, it's unreliable, and your only other alternative is diesel generators, which are super expensive. So we can price pretty well there. We can make some good returns. And when we get customers like either a 100-year-old university in Cape Town or the largest telecommunications company in Africa, where we feel comfortable with the credit, and we can get into those sort of 14-15% IRR range for contracted stuff, we're gonna go ahead and bag that, and then present that to our investors, who will make ultimately their own choice. But the best way to use our product is to mix, if you think about how much you want to invest in renewables as a percentage of your overall investment strategy, take that amount and then divide it again, once again, into the different diversified buckets that we're offering, so that you can have the best of both worlds, the impact, the yield, and the security that different markets offer.
It's very interesting. How would you, when looking at the different countries, including the United States, how receptive are the different countries in allowing you to come in and want solar power, and they're giving you access to what you need? Are different companies more open-minded than others?
Yeah, definitely. They range in their receptivity to the energy transition. But at the end of the day, Mike, everybody is part of this. This energy transition is happening. There's no stopping it, and it's happening on a global scale. So we're basically able to install solar power generation assets in any market of our choice. And it's up to us to figure out which ones are going to be the best risk-adjusted returns for our customers and for ourselves. We're heavily invested in this. As I mentioned in the introduction, few people are as overweight in this asset class than me, because we really think this is a great asset class, and it's complementary to the stocks. And I have some crypto in there, which took a little bit of a beating today. And what's nice about solar is it doesn't really take a beating. Once you own the asset and you're producing electricity and you're selling that electricity, it's pretty consistent stuff. We have a little bit of seasonality because some months are sunnier than others, but over the long run, we can really articulate our projections very, very close to what we actually get. And right now we're within just a couple bips of our projections lifetime, and our investors have realized digit returns throughout. There's no client at Energia that hasn't realized double-digit returns, even those that have a strong preference for the U.S. portfolio.
And you're seeing that the solar, as far as all the other different type of renewable energy sources out there, what's your outlook on? It's just going to grow, and it's just going to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be trillions of dollars. We're talking about something in that right now there's about 350 billion to 400 billion a year invested in renewables worldwide. And it's simply not enough. We need to get that number up to closer to $1 trillion a year to truly reverse climate change before it has its way with us. And where's that extra $500 billion going to come from? And we're proposing here that why not it come from the concerned investor citizens? Why don't we take care of our own business here? And that's what we made this product for. Really, is a tool to address climate change for people who have that concern and view that as a liability, to put their money directly towards its mitigation, and not relying on any other party or government or anything like that. But this tool could be part of a solution that ushers capital to this important new infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that is very important. I can see it's something that we have to do, right? I mean, we have to get away from the fossil fuels. We have to, whether we can get there 100% or not, because we still need steel. We still need, some of those things. But planes,
fighter jets,
fighter jets. So, but if we can go into a lot more solar, a lot more maybe hydrogen, a lot more nuclear, some of those different types of things, I think it's so important. Getting back into the different funds and what you're doing. Now, we talked about Reg D. I'm sure people in self-directed IRAs, they can.
Absolutely. That's probably our broadest, base of customers are using their retirement plan, because retirement plans are their very nature sort of long time horizon. And solar really aligns itself well. When you have a 20-year contract, you align that with a self-directed IRA and compound those dividends, because you can't really withdraw them anyways. So you take those dividends, and every month when we distribute them, you buy more solar stocks, and it's a great way to build wealth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Before we wrap up, let's talk about, you have any current projects, anything that's.
I'm deeply in love with our Brazilian portfolio, to be honest with you. The U.S. stuff is fun. We feel like we have to have it because our investors are American, and they want to see that opportunity there, and that's great. But for me, I have the majority of my investments in my own company here are into the Brazilian assets, because it's just hard to get that type of return on such a long-term basis, on such a consistent basis. And they're beautiful projects, and we have lots of them, and they're open for investments.
And are they have like a 5-year or 7-year hold, or is there a?
It's a 3-year holding period, and then you can click the sell button and hop off the bus, and somebody will buy your ticket and hop on the dividends bus. And you can see that. So obviously, you start off holding a security, which is the ownership of that asset, and the value of that security is directly the value of the asset. And then as we start selling power and time marches on, the asset's depreciating. But so the value of the stock would go down, but you're replacing that with cash. And over time, you gradually, if the portfolio only owned one project, you would gradually trade the value of the stock for the cash dividends until you had no more stock. The stock was worthless because the asset is decommissioning, and instead you have more cash in your pocket.
Investment minimum?
$100. The idea is anybody can play.
Anybody can play. And how can people get a hold of you? They're interested. These people want to get involved. How do they do it?
My email is mike@energia, ENERGEA.com. And, one of the guys I would reach out to, if you're interested in learning more about this asset class or our product, is Tyler, our head of investor relations. And his email is tyler@energia.com. We're both available and love talking about this stuff and love sharing this asset class with more people.
And website, energia.com. They can learn.
Yes, sir.
Learn anything they want to. And I'm sure you guys are on
check
there.
Out the videos.
The videos. Okay.
Yeah, we try to, these assets might be far away and you might wonder what they're like. So we try to bring them home to our investors through video a lot. And so please, take a moment and check them out. See what you think.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, I appreciate you being on. Thank you for taking this this platform that is very important in the world, I think, and bringing it to the mass of people that we are able to invest in the future of the planet and all those types of things. I think it's just so important that there needs to be more people out there that have the passion that you do, and allow people to come in and also feel good about what they're doing and investing. So I appreciate it, and thank you so much for coming on.
You bet, Michael. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care.